So today's lesson is on hierarchy of organisms, and the first slide is going to focus on mostly recap just so we get a few key points pulled back together. So first, we already know that multicelled organisms are made up of a lot of different specialized cells. On their own, those cells can't survive. That's part of the specialization process. They get good at something, but that means they can't do everything. In our body, they obviously work together to perform various tasks, meaning that different types of cells do their jobs and all the tasks get done. However, individual cells are just too small to accomplish a whole lot by themselves. Because of that, groupings are required to improve the overall effectiveness in our body. Moving on to the next slide in 3, 2, 1. So the hierarchy that we find in a multicelled organism, we're going to do two columns here. Left side, as you notice, is kind of in the center, is what's going on in the body. I'm going to try and use an analogy on the right-hand side, and we're going to start off with the left, on the left there, with the least complex, and as I work down the page, we're going to move to more complex. So inside the body, the simplest thing that we're going to work on is the cell. Now we know cells there are smaller things in cells called organelles. Our analogy here is we're going to talk about words. And we know that words are made up of smaller things called letters. So when we want to move up to the next level of complexity, in the body, the next level is called a tissue. And we're going to talk more on tissues on the next slide, and everything that comes after that we're going to talk about over the next few days. If I want to bump it up a level for our analogy, if I string a bunch of words together, I'm going to make a sentence. So if I take it one step further, if I put a group of tissues together, all trying to do a slightly larger job, I'm going to end up with an organ. And you learned in grade school about a whole bunch of different organs. We're talking things like heart, lungs, things like that. Those are organs. Our analogy here, we group a bunch of sentences together and we get a paragraph. Now the body gets more complicated than an organ because we put a bunch of organs together that are trying to do some general job for us, and we have an organ system. Well, if we put a group of paragraphs together, we might get something pretty large, say a chapter. So when we move to our most complex, if we put a bunch of organ systems together, we're going to get an organism. An organism being any multi-celled living thing, you, me, trees, plants, all kinds of stuff. Well, string a whole bunch of chapters together, and what we're going to get is maybe a book. So, a hierarchical system where we go from small to large to accomplish an overall task. Moving on in 3, 2, 1. Let's have a look at those tissue types. There are only 4 major tissue types in animals. The first one that we're going to look at is epithelial. So I'm just going to underline that word for you here, epithelial tissue. And those are tissues or types of cells that cover body surfaces, which makes things easy to move past them. And it's things like your skin, your stomach is lined with epithelial cells, so things slide through your stomach pretty well. So epithelial are coatings over top of usually different organ systems. Next, we have connective tissue. They provide support and protection. So support means support something else in living, so we're talking about blood, or it could be protection like bones. When you're not sure what something is, it's usually connective tissue. The last two are pretty straightforward. Muscle tissue. It allows movement by relaxing and contracting, and it's obviously all your muscles. The last one is nervous tissue. And these are tissues which generally conduct or move electrical signals through our body. So we're talking our brain, spinal cord, things like that. And those are the four major tissue types. I forgot my underlining, sorry. So we've got epithelial, connective, muscle, and nerve tissue. And like I said, when you're not sure, it's probably that connective tissue. Thanks for watching.